There's nothing finer to me than to be on the water when that sun comes peeking in under that Carolina sky in the Lord's creation, ripping some lips on my favorite waters, taking blind hog adventures with some of my best buddies.
All right, guys, welcome back to Blind Hog Adventures, the podcast. I am here with my best buddy and co-host, Mr. Gaston King, Captain Gaston King of Kingfisher Charters, LLC. And I am your host, Cory Furlough. I don't really know what I am. I'm just here and a lot of talking. But just good to have you guys back. We hope you've enjoyed the previous episodes. We're going to do a little changing on this one just so we're getting kind of in more of a rhythm, and we appreciate your patience with us doing this and getting used to it. But we've kind of decided we're going to be dropping our podcast. We'd mentioned it about doing it on the first of the month, just with the way things are going, and we're still learning on the podcast side. So we're going to be dropping each of our podcasts on the 10th. The reason being is we're going to be doing some pretty cool giveaways. And we need to make sure we have time for you guys to respond, and we have time to get those gifts and giveaways to you, because some of these are leading up to the Christmas time, and I think you're going to really like them. And we'll mention those a little later in the podcast. We can't give it away now because you won't stay tuned in. So that's kind of the truth. I mean, think about it. But we are going to go ahead and get rolling in today. Gaston, explain to them what we're looking at right here. What do we see around us, man?
A lot of water.
A lot of water. We're out here on. We do things a little different. You're going to hear some noises in the background. We don't have a big expensive podcasting studio like some people do, but I'll tell you what we got. We've got $1 million view because we are overlooking the beautiful Pungo River and Creek out here. You'll hear boats buzzing in the background. You'll hear different things, but man, you can't beat this right now. Now we may not do it here every time, but right now this is where we're at, and it is awesome. So
I think we should start calling this our redneck lab.
Oh my Lord.
We have a tin roof shelter.
We do.
I mean, it is nothing fancy, but it's on the water, and we get to watch the water roll in. And I don't know that it gets any better than that.
It doesn't. Do you know how much people would pay for a place
goodness.
like this just to be able to watch it?
Oh my goodness.
So we find inspiration. We're here. You hear the birds. You can see them diving on bait. Believe it or not, here's a little insight because we don't video. Last time the water rose on us so fast with the episode with Austin in October, we literally had to pick our feet up, and we had glass minnows swimming around us. And the dog had to go get on higher ground, so he didn't want to lay down in the water.
I kept expecting flounder to come in on this dirt path.
I was kind of hoping, but I didn't know if we could keep them if the actual water went back out or not. How that worked since season we're in. But anyway, we're going to get ready and start rolling. But we just wanted to say thanks for coming along with us. Like I said, this will be our third installment, episode 3. We are going to be what's going on the docket for today, man? What are we going to be talking about?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and I hope you guys take something out of this, and maybe you teach us something. With this high water, we've had a lot of east wind. I mean, I think we're on a 3-week pattern of east wind. We really need that to switch up, but it's made the bite quite tough. So we're just going to kind of go over some things that might help you guys change up your patterns a little bit, change up your lures a little bit. And I'm not a great one to talk about it because I throw 3 or 4 lures and I have confidence, and you've heard me talk about it, and it's just repetitive for me because I think I can catch fish on them. But I'm going to try to be better, and I'm going to talk about some things that might help you change locations, change lures, change colors, tactics, whatever it may be. But that's kind of direction I think we're going to head in today.
Okay, good deal, man. And he's on the water all the time. So am I. We're on there multiple days a week. Of course, Captain Gaston's got charters with him, and he's in his network of captains. I'm all around, and he's more Pungo based. I'd call it more, Bellhaven-ish area with kind of your stuff, and I kind of venture all around. So just in this past week, for example, the new blind hog came in, and so
And she's sweet.
Ooh, it's very
I haven't been invited on it yet, though, for some reason.
You have an open invitation. You don't have to be invited. That's the difference. But, yes, I went from if anybody's followed me on my YouTube channel, the Blind Hog Adventures, you've seen the Carolina Skiff, and it was a great machine. But I have gone with that Key West 203, the FS Family Sportsman, and let me tell you, it is night and day. I've been able to make runs. There's more room on the boat. I don't even feel the bumps. I mean, oh my land, it is. Yeah, I tell you what, if you're looking for a good deal and a decent boat, check out Stroud and Son over there in Eatonton, and tell them that Blind Hog sent you, and you heard it on the podcast, and Gaston and Cory sent you over there. But do it because A, they're awesome to deal with, and B, let me tell you, them Key West ride smooth, and they have got their center consoles. They've got the big ones. They've got the what's the kind you use, Gaston? It's more of a bay style boat.
Yep.
I mean, they've got them on. But anyway, I ain't trying to put too much of a plug there. I'm just letting you know. He asked about the boat, and I'm just telling you, Key West rolls, and it is.
Hey, we're honest folks, and we like what we like, and if we enjoy the experience, we'll let you know about it.
That's right, and if we don't, I'll tell you that too. So, I mean, that's the thing is we are not sponsored. No one is paying for time on here, any of that kind of stuff. So you'll always get honest feedback, just being real with you guys. So we are going to talk about the November changes, things that are going on. As this is going to be airing, it's going to be, we're in the transitional period. October has been nuts with the high water, and it ain't even been a king tide. It's been a colossal tide. And it just went from king tide to basically high water everywhere. We don't know how to act. The fish didn't know how to act. I'm just ready for some southwest wind to get this stuff out of here, man, and just get it out of the inlets.
We need something. I've been talking to a lot of people trying to figure out what the trout are doing, what we've got going on. Are they still coming into creeks? Is this high water pushing them out when it flows back out? Are the fish that are in the creek, they're just going to the back now? There's so many different questions I have. I mean, we're still catching fish.
Yeah.
We went yesterday and caught about 20 trout and found smaller fish. We didn't find a ton of keepers, but it's just there's so many things changing right now, and it's so difficult to actually get a pattern. By this time of year, normally we have a really good pattern.
Yeah.
And I can do the same thing pretty much every day and follow the fish back, but right now it's almost like there's a bubble at the mouth of the creek, and the trout don't want to come in. So I don't know. Cory probably sees different things than me, but it's nice to talk about it with somebody and just try to figure out, hey, what are you seeing on your side? Yesterday we made phone calls and I talked to people in a completely different river system, and they were seeing the exact same thing as us. I mean, they've been on trout almost every day, and then all of a sudden yesterday was just rough for a lot of people.
I mean, and even when we were coming in, even Marine Fisheries was checking us as we were coming into the boat ramp, and we said, "Hey, what have you seen?" And we had 3 nice fish on there that we had kept for supper, and the rest we had put back. We kind of like we say, we preach kind of what Speckled Trout talks about is conservation. Hey, keep what you're going to eat. That's fine. Put the big females back and let them keep breeding. But hey, if you want some for supper, that's a God-given right, and do it. I mean, it's a resource there, owned by the people, for the people, that was given to us by the good Lord. So if you want to do that, do that. We had us 3 nice on, be good, plenty for supper. We asked her, we said, hey, what have you seen? She said, honestly, we're not seeing much of anything in the keeper size, the bigger keeper size. I think they had saw some around Aurora had moved in that area, she said, but she had not seen it. It was just crazy. Like I said, everybody's catching fish, but they're smaller, they're spread out. So just the water's been really murky and muddy. We've had, everybody knows about the destruction in the western part of the state and across the southeast, and our prayers and hearts go out to all of those people. And it's been something. When you get 20-some inches of rain and they release all the dam water and they do all that stuff's got to come toward the coast. And then you mentioned the rain we got on top, and just, I don't know, temperature changes hadn't been crazy so far. So they've definitely been sitting in a lot of different places.
There's more things working against us than working for us right now, and I guess that's what keeps us coming back, though. Really,
it's the challenge. Of
it,
man.
Absolutely. I mean, if you go out every single time and wear them out, absolutely, that's fun. But at the end of the day, there is a challenge. They have tails; they're going to swim wherever they want to go, You've got to figure out where they're at, when they're feeding, and what they want to feed on.
That's it.
And that's another thing, too. We have a ton of menhaden. Our shrimp have left where I'm at. So we have a ton of menhaden. So, and it's really kind of been, they're transitioning almost into a hard bait bite.
Yes.
Mirror lure, jerk bait. We use Yozuri 3DS minnows. I mean, all those styles. It just seems like something with some flash down there is really grabbing their attention. I caught one on a mirror lure yesterday, a 17, and I don't think I've ever had a fish hit harder. If I didn't have my hand above the reel, he would have jerked the rod out of my hand.
We had the same. I went out with a buddy, Cory, another Cory. Went out with him, and we literally we tried everything. We tried paddle tails, we tried popping corks, we tried shrimp, we tried all different colors, and finally he had a MHC lure, one of their slow sinking twitch baits, and I had a Twitch Carolina slow sinking twitch bait that I put on. And man, that's what we had to do. We had to slow it way down. It had that 17 sink rate kind of, but it was a little bigger profile than a 17. It was kind of that in between profile from a 27, 17. It's kind of that medium profile. And man, I'm telling you, like you say, you throw it out there and you literally give it them a couple hard pops and just let it do its thing. And when they hit it, when everything else, the bite was real timid. Everything was real finicky.
I was going to ask that.
It was real finicky on everything else except when we went to them slow sinking twitch baits, like you said, like the 17 type sinking. And for a 17, if you don't know, sinks about a foot a second. 18 is going to sink about 2 foot a second. I like something in that kind of in-between weight class because I'm not a very patient fisherman. And usually in November, October and November, you can fish at 18 even in shallower water because you can move it along a little faster, And for some reason, they did not want it moving fast. You had to give it them hard pops and let it kind of sit there and just flutter. But when they hit it on that drop, it was like you said, you better be holding on because they hit it with aggression and authority. And, I mean, they were hitting it back and sucking it in. They weren't no gumming it. I mean, they were nailing it.
Well, that's absolutely opposite of 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
When we fished together the first time, and my dad and I went fishing a couple of days before that, and we found that we were bouncing soft plastics for a little while, and you had to reel it in to get a bite. You couldn't bounce it. The bait had to be moving fast. So that just goes into so many different things. I mean, every day, try to find what they want. Fish slow, fish fast, change colors, change baits. And I will tell you, I'm the world's worst at that. I get into my patterns of what to throw. But I did want to get back to your timid bites.
Yes.
Because we had the same thing, and I talked to 4 or 5 other people yesterday that had the exact same issue. And I've got it down to 2 things because we did catch small fish. So either the smaller fish are not taking the bait all the way, or it's a finicky bite.
Yeah.
And I've seen that too. We've had a lot of times throwing mirror lures, and you throw out and you feel them peck it.
Yeah.
And they just do that for a couple hours, and then all of a sudden you can be in the same spot, same lure, same presentation, everything, and it just turns on.
Yeah.
There's something, whether it be barometric pressure, and that's something I'm trying to be better at following, but something in the day changed. The wind, the sun, something changed, and they just went to feeding.
Yeah.
But it tells you if you're getting those peck bites, especially if you're getting the peck bites, change your lure, do something different just to see if you can entice them. There's been a lot of days where we've gone from having peck bites on a mirror lure and turn around and throw a soft plastic, and boom, it's on.
And that was what we noticed was the major. For example, the major yesterday was from 8:30 to 10:30. Now, some people, do you buy into the solar stuff, like the lunar tables and stuff like that?
I'm trying to get better about it. I do look at minors and majors, but right now these fish are in such a different pattern. It's not changing them at all here.
Now, I do look for it really hard. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I'm not one of those folks. I don't have the time that, let's say the major falls from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. I don't have the time in my schedule most of the time to go out. So I fish when I can, and but I have noticed a lot of times, like for example, yesterday morning, that the early bite was real finicky. We caught a couple real early, and then the major though was from 8:30 to 10:30. We did catch some smaller fish, and toward the end of that major is when we noticed some come on. So really, we had our best bites from that 10:30 to 11:30 time frame. Almost when the major had ended is when the bigger fish we caught smoked it. And it was like, I don't know what changed. The sun did come out. Now, that was a big difference. We noticed they were being really skittish. While it was overcast, a little bit of wind, not a lot, but water temperatures were low to mid 70s. That didn't change a lot. Had some bait around. But when that sun busted through them little bit of times that sun would bust through those clouds, that's when we had the mid-morning bite where they would just nail it.
Well, I think sometimes what you get, especially if you're throwing a mirror lure or the MHC like you were talking about that's got glitter or sparkle in it, when that sun hits it, if you ever look in the water at the menhaden, when the menhaden are running through and they're flashing, you got to think when that mirror lure or whatever hard bait, Yozuri or Rapala, whatever you may be throwing, that sun hits and it flashes. Yeah. And a trout is, most of the time, I think, bites on a reaction strike. Yeah. And, I mean, he's sitting there, he sees that flash, and he's going to it. So, I mean, that may be what you saw when the sun came out. Because we had overcast most of the morning on us, but our pattern's been so different. By 9:30 here, our bite's done. Yeah. I mean, you might pick off a couple here and there, but it's been you better get out there early and start fishing. Yeah,
yeah. And honestly, I guess one thing that happened yesterday was a lot of the boat traffic went away about that 9:30, 10 o'clock time frame. I guess because they were kind of following the same pattern, and we noticed that once everything's calmed down, gave it about 30 minutes. That's honestly when our big bite turned on. There wasn't as much pressure. There weren't all the boats zooming around. There wasn't all that. And we could just sit. I put the power pole down and just sat there nice and quiet. And there was yesterday was a northeast wind, northeast wind. So it would bring those bait around that point. And as it dropped those bait in, we were sitting right there, and you'd see them start to peck and hit. And it weren't gar. It was that sip, that little, and you could just see it.
That kind of turns me on.
I ain't lying. I even threw
I'm going to go fishing now.
I even threw a couple top baits, and I couldn't get them to do a lot. But like I said, there's something about, man, when it started to sink, and we were in, of course, water's up like everywhere. It's up where we would normally be in 3-4 foot. I mean, we had moved back and we're in about 6-7 feet, throwing to that 3-4 feet that would normally be 2 feet. So we were having to back away from it. But, man, as it come around that corner, we take that long cast, man, and set it up there and start bringing it back. And after it got off that bank a little ways and started to come down, I was fishing, like I said, a twitch color, that pink one he's got with that silver bottom. And, man, when it started to do that flutter down, they would destroy it. And like I said, he was fishing an MHC, that white with a had a, let's see, it was yellow or sharp. It was either yellow or green, that little insert. Little insert. And it weren't real flashy. It just had a little bit there. But it was that flutter, man. Like I said, they wanted them big pops, and you just let it flutter. And I don't fish that aggressive a lot of times, but you almost had to. But they were nailing it, and it was that's what we caught them on. That was the big ones.
Well, there's few better feelings than sitting on a point that bait is coming around and the trout are sitting on that little drop off. Yeah. And it's that time of year. I mean, these fish are really, once we get a good cold snap, these fish are really going to start moving. And you can do that. You can honestly power pole down, anchor down, drive your boat up on a point. Yeah. And just fish in one spot, and the trout are going to come by you.
If you see that bait working up and down that point, if you see that bait steadily working and then fish working, just chill. Just relax right there. And you may not get a bite all the time, but those fish are working up and down those banks in that current. And I don't know. It just was awesome, man, yesterday.
Well, I can tell you something I've seen recently that's kind of throwing me off. Generally, if I see a bunch of mullet jumping, then the trout are biting. Yeah. It's active water. We've talked about that. Active water, the fish are feeding. But I've been in a pattern here lately where the mullet are jumping. I mean, more mullet than I've ever seen. And I'm not catching trout.
I'm not either.
Normally, if the mullet are active, the trout are active. And right now, that is not the case. And like I say, that goes back to there's so many changes right now. We're really fishing a tough zone. And I know some people are having some good days. And I think the fish right now, a lot of them are staging up to come in. Yeah. So if you can find those staging zones right now before they get to the back of these creeks, and you can have a really good day.
And I kind of look at it as, so one thing, and I'm a very simple dude, and I try to, whenever I'm trying to, whether it's on Salt Strong, trying to coach or teach, or on my YouTube channel or on here, right, we're trying to help people out. And we realize everybody is in different places in their fishing journey, right? Their fishing career, their fishing whatever. So the best way I can put it is, and we can make it very simple, is I try to tell people, think of a tree, right? Like a cedar tree, a pine tree, whatever you want to call it. And right now, what I am seeing is if the tree, if the log is the main river branch, right, and you've got the little subsequent creeks going off, what I'm seeing is the third closest to the log, either they're setting up on the points right there on the log, or they're sitting out really close to it. They are not back up in the creeks. They're not none of those places. If you got a good current flow around, they're staying close to that main river right now. And I tell you, that's something I think we notice a lot in November is a transitional period, right? You notice what water temperatures changing. I do fish down near the OBX a lot. I fish anywhere from alligator through, you name it, any of those creeks coming around, Gum Neck, all that stuff. And when it starts to get colder, but I will tell you on the Outer Banks and different places, those fish that were sitting there, had been sitting there all summer, are definitely, they're well on the move. I mean, it's just trying to find them, man.
Well, we're going to get to that point where we're going to have some cold nights. We're going to dip down below the 50s, and that's really going to change some things. Then you're going to get that first frost. And that's, as a trout fisherman, that's when I get excited. I mean, once these water temps start dropping down, and I was talking to a guy about this yesterday, but, I mean, right now we're low to mid-70s. And once we start getting down below 70, and then we hit 65 to 60, I mean, the whole thing changes.
Yeah.
Now, my absolute favorite temp is 55.
Okay.
I think the trout from 55 to 60 are the most active. But, I mean, in this time of year, once we start having these cold snaps, which hopefully that'll be soon.
Yeah.
But once we have these cold snaps, you're really going to kind of slow down. And that's back into the lure presentation that we're looking for is, throw your hard baits, your mirror lures, your 17s, 18s, whatever you prefer, and whatever color you prefer.
Yeah.
Me, as a trout guy, purple and chartreuse. I mean, whether it be Mardi Gras, I've got a custom I get from Greenville Marine. It's grape soda, but it's purple, it's silver, it's got flash. That goes back to the men hating flash. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you fish what you're comfortable with. But when these waters start cooling down, it's really time to slow down your presentation. And when you slow down that presentation, we've talked a lot about hard baits, but we hadn't talked about soft plastics really. And soft plastics are a great way. I mean, you can slow roll them, you can bounce them off the bottom, you can fish deeper water. Once this water gets cold, these trout really get lethargic at times. And it takes, I mean, there's been times where we've thrown out and we've done something else and come back and a trout's picked it up.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you just let it sit on the bottom sometimes for 5-10 seconds. I mean, the slower the better on certain days. And it really just goes back to fishing different styles. Fish fast, fish slow. I mean, switch it up, try the presentation. Once you catch 2, 3, 4 trout, you're building a pattern of what to throw, what they want, where they're at. You catch one, that's a good, you got a trout. All right, now you catch 2 doing the same thing. You're like, okay, well, let's kind of focus. And all of a sudden you got 4 or 5 doing the same thing. Yeah. And it's repetitive. And a trout's repetitive. Every year they basically do the same thing.
That's right. And, I tell you, when it comes to soft plastics and things like that, one of the ones that I love in November is ones that I found that work. Doesn't matter if I'm in Swan Quarter, Juniper Bay, doesn't matter if I'm up off of the Pamlico, Pungo, whatever, is I love a little slick, the smaller slick style baits. And I also love the Z-Man, the 4 and 5 inch, or mainly 4 inch, the jerk shads. Man, that beer run color, the ones that look like the bait fish, whether it doesn't matter if it's the green ones, also some of the purples, like you say, stuff like that. Man, that is a money bait for me. I'm gonna throw it on a 1/4 ounce jig head and bounce it off the bottom, give it some good pops. Red drum, if they're still around, is going to hit it. And plus, the water's going to should start clearing up in November. So that's why, like I said, once that sun comes up, man, that beer run color, which is that gold and with that white silverish looking belly, I'll throw a red head on it for some reason. I don't know why.
That goes back to when we first started fishing. The only thing I ever threw was red.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, something about I can put a red head on one and throw it, and I can have somebody else on the boat throwing one with a different color, and I'll get 2 to 1 bite. And I don't know what it is.
Confidence.
I guess it's confidence, but it's just I have noticed that for some reason they like that pattern. But it's also on a sunny day with clear water. So that's where it comes back to everything doesn't work the same every day in every situation, right? You got to switch up. I mean, you've got to try different things, and notice, hey, if your water's clear, then clearer presentations. If your water's dirtier, I have to switch it up some. Depths, current.
So what I'm hearing from you, if you have clear water, you prefer a darker bait.
No, I'm backwards. If
Backwards.
I'm clear water, I'm gonna do something more flashy.
Okay.
I'm gonna do something a little more flashy. I'm gonna do like a beer run.
And the beer run has a gold flake, you
It's
say?
gold flake with like a silverish look. That slam
okay,
shady color
okay.
bottom, but a gold top.
Okay.
And like I said, that 4-inch seems to be the perfect size. I'll go to the Salt Strong, right? They have the tweakers, right? They have that shrimp presentation, or they also have that slam shady color on a clear day. Now, if it's cloudy, a little bit darker water, something like that, no, I'm gonna switch over to something a little darker, a natural shrimp, that new penny or a space guppy. I'll even do something like that. A 3-inch. I'll go down to a 3-inch paddle tail or throw that space guppy out. You get that chartreuse looking color, or I don't know, man. I ain't above none of it. He's gonna
works.
He's gonna tell you that he's gonna not switch up baits, and I'm gonna tell you that I switch them up way off.
Trust me, I have been fishing with him only twice now, surprisingly. But this man will change baits 15 times in 15 minutes. This is no joke. I've seen it. He's got that little speed swivel, whatever he crankbait something. You'll catch that on his YouTube show.
That's right.
But oh my gosh, he will switch it over and over. Now I would love this year. I'm gonna try to get more into fishing that slick. I mean, there's so many people that have it and have confidence in it and catch big trout. I'm going to do it. But to his point, when I am throwing, I throw a lot of Z-Man, and I use a lot of minnows or the jerk shad, the 3-inch minnows. But I basically have 3 colors.
Okay.
Slam shady, sexy mullet, trout sickle.
Okay.
I mean, really, don't get me wrong. I probably got 200 bags of Z-Man. And people look at that and they're like, what in the world? What do you do with all these? I don't throw them. If I'm being honest, I don't throw them. But I have them there if for some reason I figure I need them.
Yeah. And I tell you, I've got last year, I had just really started learning about the coastal brew baits and then the AM fishing baits. And they're out of Texas. That coastal brew, they make, like I said, it looks just like it's a jerk shad is what it is. And they've got some lighter colors. They've got some that's kind of like that pearl blue glimmer. They've got some that's kind of like that watermelon red. That it depends on the watercolor. And then AM Fishing, man, they got a paddle. They got a tail on theirs. It's like a curly tail. It's like a curly tail and a jerk shad or a paddle tail had a baby. And that's what it looks like is. And the color combinations are crazy, but you don't see them a lot. And so sometimes if you have a bait that a fish hadn't seen a lot, you can throw it out there, and they have some pretty good color combos that I'll mix in.
I 100% agree with them not seeing, I say at certain times, and I've kind of switched up variations on a mirror lure for Mardi Gras. How many times has that trout today seen Mardi Gras?
Probably 50.
Or electric chicken. Everybody's going down the same areas, throwing the same baits. So I'm big on that. Change, it doesn't have to be a lot, but just something different, I think helps you out. And you talking about the AM fishing, I throw those a little bit, but they glow.
They do.
I mean, they're a different bait.
They're a scent, very heavily scented with like a garlic scent.
I was gonna say, you want to smell garlic bread? Throw you out of AM, you'll get hungry real quick.
I tell you, but man,
they work. They do,
work.
And I've watched you catch quite a few fish on that.
And that's and I know I've got an obsession, and my wife will tell you with buying baits.
Don't we all?
I ain't lying. Fishermen have obsessions with buying baits, and I can't help it. I need to just stop. But anyway, I do. You see somebody, and the more you get around other people, and you see the more they fish, and they're successful. Sometimes you're like, man, I don't have that style bait. But then what do? You get it, and it sits in the bag, or you throw it for 5 minutes, and you're like, this can't be right. So you go back to your confidence bait. Yep. So realistically, all of us have got between 5 and 10 baits that we probably will fish all year long. It doesn't matter what's going on. Truly, I mean that's probably about every fisherman, that 5 to 10, and it could depending on season and water and all that. But style wise, a little different color. But like I say, you probably all of us could take 5 or 10 baits and fish all year round.
Well, and I do this too. I always say when I get into a good group of trout and I'm catching them, I'm gonna switch to a lure that I want to try out.
Yes,
but that's hard to do when you're catching fish. it is hard to put that down.
Yeah.
Whatever you're catching them on, it's hard to put that down and go to something else.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I don't know. I will try. A lot of times with the YouTube channel makes me do it more because I'm trying to educate and stuff
I've
like
seen
that.
you change, bro.
Yeah, and I do. And don't get me wrong. We were fishing with them popping corks on our video we did, and my man was catching them every cast. And I'm like, well, we know that's working. Let's see what else is here. And I will switch up. Now, don't get me wrong. I ain't gonna switch up so long and watch the man catch fish beside me because I'm gonna go back to it. But I don't know. I do try it. I mean, and that's just because I guess with aspirations or doing or showing or whatever is if this is working really good, what could possibly work great? You know what I mean? Or a different class of fish or whatever.
And another thing too is I tell people every day you're on the water, you need to learn something new.
That's a big thing.
And if that's for you testing a new bait or trying a new area, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But if you're on the water and actively looking around, learning, then you're going to be a better fisherman.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is confidence baits that you always can go back to and you're going to start your day out with. But hey, if you get into a good mess of fish and you felt that tug, you've had a good time, you're all right, now what can I learn, right? Add something on top of it. The day you're struggling is not the day to go and have a day of a bunch of experiments because there's some baits that I know I just cannot work. I don't know how to work because I don't throw them enough. So if I'm throwing the wrong bait at the wrong tide, at the wrong color, and the wrong presentation, either I'm gonna catch the stupidest fish out there because they have never seen it before, or I messed up the bait. That's not the way it was intended. So I'm definitely decreasing my presentation. Right. So get those confidence baits that you can use. It doesn't matter if all you throw is a 3-inch paddle tail. Okay, get it. Throw it. I mean, if that's what you feel comfortable doing, then do it. Or a popping cork or whatever. Go to your confidence bait until you feel like you have reached that point that it's okay. Now when you've gotten the groove, then switch out. Or if there's a couple of you on the boat, throw some different stuff.
Well, that's what we do on charters too. I mean, if I've got 3 guys fishing, I don't always do this. If I know exactly what they're feeding on, I've got the pattern. I don't change it. But there are times where I'll do a popping cork or soft plastic or mirror lure. I mean, my guys are throwing in, they're throwing out, in deep water, shallow water, different areas. Anything that these guys can learn and I can learn. Obviously, if I think they're hitting popping corks and they're not, and they're hitting soft plastics, then I'm going to have my guys throwing soft plastics.
Yeah.
So every day is different. I mean, there's some days that a soft plastic is better than a mirror lure or vice versa, whatever it may be. But if you take the time to learn that, you'll be a much better fisherman.
Yeah. So what is as we start talking about transitioning and kind of starting to wrap this up a little bit, as we get deeper into, because the next one's going to come out in that December 10th time frame, will be on the next episode, we're going to have most of the time, we're going to have a pretty big change between that November and December, let's say November 10th and December 10th, right? You're getting around Thanksgiving, you're seeing leaves change, you're seeing, stuff is changing, temperatures are changing, it's starting to get a little cooler. What are you transitioning to as you kind of get more toward the end of November, 1st of December for this next one comes out? How are you starting to move yourself in the creeks? How are you starting to do a few things? What's your transitional thing now as we're kind of moving ahead to help some folks out? Maybe look for these patterns.
Well, I let the fish tell me.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing is, I've been fishing down here long enough. I know basically where the fish are moving, what they're doing. So I'm looking for certain points, certain cuts, coves.
Is there a water temperature that gets you moving to the next part? Let's say from near the branch to that next middle part of the creek. So
I mean, right now we're low to mid 70s. My next transition is going to be getting down to 65.
So let's say 65 is your next mid transition.
It is my next big transition. So from there, I'll spend less time out towards the mouth. I'll spend more time back in the middle, working my way towards the back of the creek. Yeah. And then obviously once you get below 60, 55, I mean, not every trout goes all the way to the back of the creek. I mean, sometimes they mill around. And the other thing to that too is you have to look for the bait. Yeah. Because if the bait's not at the back of the creek, I don't care how cold it gets. Yeah. If the bait's not at the back of the creek, the trout's not going to leave the bait. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. And so you're looking for menhaden and all that. But yeah, I'm saying from now my next big is 65 degrees. But, I'm changing. I'm always going to throw a popping cork. I mean, 12 months out of the year, I'm throwing a popping cork. But, it really moves into mirror lure. I throw a 17. I know a lot of people throw an 18. But moving into a mirror lure, once I get in that 70 to 65 range, I do a lot of jerk baits, the Rapalas. I do a lot of the rip stops. I mentioned the Yozuri 3D minnows, and then soft plastics. I mean, really, that's going to be my go-to for a lot of the year is popping cork, soft plastics, mirror lure. Gotcha. And mirror lure is going to be from probably mid-October until, I'll probably throw that until February into March.
Gotcha.
And then I'll really jump back on those popping corks again.
Yeah, and different people are going to throw different things. November, the fish are still they're active and feeding, so you can still throw those 27s. You can throw the bigger profile. You can do that, right? You can throw some of those ones that have that same kind of sink rate, but they're a little bit bigger. So some of them big mamas that are feeding up in between spawns and different stuff like that and doing different things. I know a lot of people throw 27s in November and into maybe mid-December until it gets real cold. But also, too, as you're moving through the back of your creeks, y'all look for them bends. Look for the bends in the creeks where that water is going to kind of hollow out and bring them some bait and stuff like that where you're going to have the drop-offs. And, fish and a lot of times you got to think, too, all summer we've been fishing the wayward, or how is it? We've been fishing the wind-blown side of the creeks. And so now as you start to move into the winter and the water starts to get a little colder, start looking at the side of the creek that has the wind protection. Start looking at those deeper water pockets and stuff like that, because that's where you're going to start to see those variances. And, you got to think about what bait you're throwing. You may be used to throwing an 1/8 ounce or a 3/16 ounce jig head. Well, if you got a hole or a nice little cut and you're seeing them fish on the bottom, and 60-degree water, well, I hate to tell you, most time it's not going to get down there. So you may have to increase your jig head sizes or various things, right? It depends, but don't be scared to try stuff. And that's the thing is learning, staying on top of it, getting in those communities, finding somebody that is wiser and can kind of help lead you along. And definitely, right, just keep learning, keep changing, keep trying. And something that I think we got a pretty cool thing that, speaking of learning, trying, and changing, you've been growing along with us. And to say thank you with that, we are going to give you a chance. I think we're going to try to do something. What are we talking about trying to do for those that are going to be listening to this podcast as a thank you?
So what I'm going to do is we're going to give you guys a chance to win a fishing charter with me. Cory will go into the details of what you need to do because I've told him he's the brains behind this operation.
That's scary.
And he's going to have to figure that out. He's going to make a phone call to me, tell me who won. I'm going to take you fishing. So Cory will explain the rest of this because I'm already lost on it.
Well, he's being humble. That's what he's being. And that's, if you know him, that's just his personality, and that's why people are drawn to him. All right, so basically what we're going to try to do is November and December are leading into Christmas. So we have been blessed very much, and so we're going to try to give some blessings away. November, as a thank you for you listening to this episode. So this episode will be dropped on November the 10th unless something major happens. But from the day it's dropped, and that's where we're looking November 10th, you have 7 days. So until November 17th, you it's very easy. We're not because everybody listens on different platforms, different everything. Go to Blind Hog Adventures on YouTube. Blind Hog Adventures with Cory Furlough. This podcast will be on there. And then what you do is I want you to put in the comment, heard it on the podcast, and put your favorite November bait. What is your? You ain't got to give color and all that. Just put jerk shad, mirror lure, popping cork, whatever.
If you want to give us that and then your GPS location of where you like to throw it, you can do that too.
Yeah, it is the giving season. I mean, my man's giving you a charter. You can at least give a couple spots away, right? I mean, come on. But no, go to Blind Hog Adventures, subscribe and then. Like I said, under there, you're going to see the podcast, and you can go under the podcast portion, or I will post on November 10th, I will post a short video to even make it easier. I will put, hey, you can comment underneath this as well. You'll see a video right there on the screen. You can comment under that video and put heard it on the podcast and your favorite lure. That's the only 2 places you can comment that it will be counted toward it. You will have 6 months to redeem. We will announce the winner right after the 7 days is over. So we'll announce the winner and give you a call. once we'll contact you and say, hey, we can get up with you. This is for up to how many people?
2 to 3 people.
2 to 3.
And you don't need a fishing license. I've got a blanket license for the boat. I've got all the rods, reels, tackle, everything you need. I'll have a cooler with ice and bottled water. All you need to bring is whatever snacks you want and anything other than water.
Okay. This trip will be redeemable from January to June. 6 months is what you have to redeem it. If you don't redeem it in 6 months, that's your fault, not Gaston's. And you can invite, like I said, use 2 to 3 people on the charter. It's a heck of a Christmas present to give to someone and surprise. You can, however, Gaston's good with people of all levels of expertise. But that is our way of saying thank you for you guys listening. We've got another one really great planned for December as it's lining up for Christmas. But hey, what a way to surprise somebody and say, hey, guess what? I won us a charter through a free giveaway through Captain Gaston, and Merry Christmas. And so that is the way. Like I said, if you got any questions, hit me up. Of course, you can comment there. You can always comment, under the podcast. But this should be on any kind of podcasting platform, and that's the problem. They're across multiple platforms. So you need to go under YouTube, under Blind Hog Adventures. Please subscribe to the channel, and then go to you can either hit the podcast tab, and it'll be the November podcast, or I will have a video on there under my video tab, and it'll show right there when you log in that it'll say you can register here for the November giveaway. But type these words, heard it on the podcast, and then put your favorite November fishing lure. That's all you've got to do. Is that simple enough?
I think it is.
I mean,
if I can do it, I think it's pretty simple.
And look, Gaston went, he was like, I like your content. So I went and made up an email address just so I can log on to YouTube and get notified when you drop new content. So, I mean, I hate to tell you, Gaston's a smart dude with a fishing pole, but he ain't the best with technology. So if he can do it, anybody can do it. Even my daddy and all of them cats have done it. So I'm telling you, if they can do it, you can do it too.
I'm still in the Stone Age.
Oh, it'd be better to be back there, to be honest about it. So what else, man, as we kind of wrap this thing up and kind of end it, as we get into December, guys, we've got some awesome guests lined up. December's episode is going to be real special for Gaston and I as we kind of pay homage to some folks, give thanks to some folks, do a little giveaway. But all I can tell you is going forward, we have got a list of potential guests that have already said they'll be glad to come on. That is going to really, really highlight just the whole area, different fisheries. But it's all, like I said, if you've never heard this before, we are staying Pamlico Sound, the southern edge of Pamlico Sound, north to Virginia line, and basically all the river systems that come off of that and going east. The boys mainly handle the noose a lot down that way, so we're kind of keying off. We may hit some of that. We hit the Pamlico, the Pungo, Albemarle Sound, Roanoke Rivers, Tar River, some of those folks, the Outer Banks. We're hitting all that. So inshore saltwater species and the things around that is what we're going to be hitting. So we definitely try to hit in that area is where we're going to try to keep Central located and just have a good time highlighting how blessed we are to live and fish here in eastern North Carolina. Man, as we wrap up, any last thoughts?
Slow down, change your lures if you need to. And Cory did mention one thing I want to go back to, especially this time of year. Find that point with that bait running around it. And I'm telling you, you will have more fun than you can expect.
Yes.
I promise you.
Yeah, definitely. If you find
this
bait,
time of year.
Yeah, if you find moving water, bait, birds, and busting fish, you have found a trifecta for success.
Set up shop.
That's right. And it doesn't matter where you're at. It works in all places. So it doesn't matter if you're at the Outer Banks. It doesn't matter if you're fishing the marshes. It doesn't matter if you're in somewhere up there in Blunts or Pamlico, Chocowinity Bay. It doesn't matter if you're over in the Alligator River or one of its tributaries. It doesn't matter. It works in all of these places, guys. And that's the thing. If you go somewhere and you don't get bites, find that same setup in a different spot. It may take moving 100 yards. It may take moving a mile. I don't know. But go through, and as you see those areas and you're riding down, hey, look for them. If you see them, slow it down. Don't run right up on top of it. Get a good 5, 6, 7 cast away. I like to go about 200 yards away cut that motor off, ease up with that trolling motor, and start at least good 3 castaway casting as I come in. And then I'm going to set up down, because especially in the wintertime, I'm going to set up current, cast down to that side of the point that's going to be a little more covered because that water's getting colder and the temperatures, and bring that bait right on back. Just try different things. Try both sides. Try leeward, wayward, all that stuff.
And give it 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
Seriously, I see so many people jump on a point or a cove somewhere that I know there's fish, and they fish it so fast, I'll go right behind them and catch fish. Slow it down. You're spooking these fish when you're coming up.
Yeah.
Slow it down, and you'd be surprised.
Yeah, be careful how you drop your trolling motor in the water. It makes noise. Be careful when you put down your power pole. If you do those things, you got to figure 5 minutes for them to calm down. When you go and move, right, don't slam your bag down on the bottom of the floor to get your baits out, right? Don't just think about it. Everything you do is amplified in that water, and those fish are sensitive. So you have to give them time to calm back down. And then, like I say, fish it. Enjoy your time out there. Enjoy God's creation. If you don't get a bite, go somewhere else. It's all right. But just take your time and enjoy what we're here for. All right, so as we wrap up, I try to always end out in a scripture. And this one I'm going to give, there's a lot of stuff going on. We want to definitely give our hearts and thoughts and minds and prayers to the folks that have been impacted in the southeast and in the western part of our state. And so today's scripture, as we kind of wrap out, is this one here from John 16:33. And it says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Y'all, we're here for a short time. If we can do the 2 things that the Lord told us to do, which is love Him and love our neighbor, this world will be a lot better place. By the time this actually drops, we'll have had an election. Just remember that just because whoever's president, they ain't king, and the real king sits on the throne. So just take a deep breath. Remember to love your neighbor, love God, and remember God, America's great. So we just want to say thank y'all for coming along. So this is Cory Furlough signing out, and my best buddy,
Gaston King.
Hey, y'all, thank you for listening to Blind Hog Adventures podcast. Don't forget to go and register for the trip with him. If you got any questions, let us know. And questions. That's how we're going to do some of these episodes, and we'll have some good guests coming up. Appreciate y'all. God bless. Take care, and we'll see you on the water.
There's nothing finer to me than to be on the water. When that sun comes peeking in under that Carolina sky in the Lord's creation, ripping some lips on my favorite waters, taking blind hog adventures with some of my best buddies.